Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at CoreyJoel, CorryJoel, and also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agent's Take, on NFL contract and salary cap matters. This week we are going to try to put into context the surprising extension given to Taysom Hill by the Saints. On Monday, the Saints raised some eyebrows by extending Taysom Hill's contract. It's a 4-year, $40 million extension. There's $21.5 million in guarantees and $10 million fully guaranteed at signing. I got to say, I didn't have a Taysom Hill contract extension on my radar screen for something happening this season. As we all know, Hill lost a training camp preseason battle to be the starting quarterback to replace Drew Brees. Jameis Winston beat him out as a starting quarterback. He had a concussion earlier this year, and after Winston got hurt, Trevor Siemian's been the quarterback, and Hill's gone back into his Swiss Army knife kind of jack of all trades hybrid role. But this isn't the first Taysom Hill contract this year which has made headlines. In March, prior to the start of the new league year, he did a contract restructure for salary cap purposes, which caused some confusion because of the way it was reported. The headlines were he signed a $140 million 4-year extension. That was not true, but it did cause some confusion among fans, Saints fans. It was a cap maneuver, a garden variety cap maneuver in a lot of respects that you see teams do, particularly this year, where you add extra years, which aren't real years, to the contract so you can stretch out the money which is being treated as signing bonus and prorated over a longer period of time. And that's exactly what was done in this case. And the Saints needed to do a lot of salary cap gymnastics because they're a team which kicks the can down the road by pushing today's cap obligations off until tomorrow, more so than any other team. And with the cap dropping from $198.2 million to $182.5 million this year, then that caused huge problems. Saints were going to have to shed about $110 million of cap commitments to be compliant for the salary cap when the league year started on March 17th. So practically every contract they could restructure was done. That included Hill's. And Hill originally was scheduled to make $12.159 million, still making that with a $16.159 million cap number. What was done was they took his base salary of $10.72 million, $5.72 million was fully guaranteed, chopped that down to $1.034 million, which is fully guaranteed, and took his $1.439 million fifth day of the league year roster bonus and made that so they could prorate it over the cap. So they're turning $11.125 million of money into what can be prorated and treated as signing bonus. And in turn, they created $8.9 million of cap space that way. His new cap number for 2021, $7.259 million. So, turns out they needed those base salaries, which were $35 million per year in each year. They were for a legitimate purpose. There's a rule that if you do a contract extension, you can't provide a salary increase for 1 year. So in this case, if you've done add the voidable / dummy, fake dummy years of minimum base salaries, this extension that just happened doesn't get done. Because even though they're not real years, they're going to void right now. they are actual contract years. They haven't voided yet. They don't void until 5 days before the 2022 league year starts. So that's March 11th. So until March 11th, those are real contract years. So if you stuck low base salaries in there, you're not doing that deal right now because you would be violating this rule of providing a salary increase. Now, what you can do is you can do another extension, or you can do whatever, as many maneuvers as you want, as long as the aggregate cap room doesn't increase for the years of players under contract. So in this case, that would be 21 through 2025. Even though 22 through 25 aren't real contract years, for these purposes, the aggregate cap numbers are $156.159 million, because with the $35 million salaries, he's got $37.225 million cap numbers in each of those years. This year, 7.259. So as long as in the common years, which would be 21 through 2025, the cap numbers don't exceed this, you can do whatever you want. Now, in the new deal, the aggregate cap numbers are $56.159 million. That's why it's fine. And we saw this kind of come into play previously this year, that the Saints had to do a salary cap maneuver with Marshawn Lattimore's fifth-year option back in June. He's scheduled to make $10.244 million on the fifth-year option. And they added 4 voiding dummy years with salaries of $30 million in each of those years. Converted $9.254 million of the option bonus into signing bonus to create cap space. So with those $30 million salaries, that gave them plenty of room for them to do that extension they did right before the regular season, the real extension, where it averages just over $19.5 million per year. Aggregate cap room in that case for the real extension was less than the aggregate cap numbers in the fake extension with the voiding years. So same concept here, just didn't think that Taysom Hill would be someone you'd be doing this with. Now, it's a 4-year, $40 million extension. Incentives and escalators, it maxes out to $94 million. It's got incentives $4.5 million each year. Salaries can escalate a max of $12 million, 2023 through 2025. So you've got $18 million in incentives, $36 million in total escalators. Max deal $94 million over 4 years. Now let's get into a little bit of a breakdown of the actual deal. 2021 cap number remains the same. Had you done nothing and those voiding dummy years had the voiding had actually occurred, you'd have an $8.9 million cap charge in 2022 and then have to re-sign them. Now, under this deal, you've got a $1.1 million fully guaranteed base salary in 2022. He's got a $9 million roster bonus on the 5th day of the league year. It's guaranteed for injury right now. 5 days after contract's execution, it's fully guaranteed. Skill and cap guarantees kick in. So actually, I should have said it's $10.1 million fully guaranteed, not 10. So they're not going to cut him after giving him $10.1 million fully guaranteed at signing. In 2022, he's got a cap number now of $12.325 million. In 2023, he's got a $9.9 million base salary, guaranteed for injury. 3rd day of the 2022 league year, which will be March 18th, this upcoming March 18th. The $9.9 million base salary becomes fully guaranteed. cap number in 2023, $12.125 million. 2023, $12.225 million cap number. He's got a $10 million base salary. $1.5 million is guaranteed for injury. The $1.5 million becomes fully guaranteed. The skill and salary cap guarantees kick in on the third day of the 2024 league year. 2025 cap number, he's got a $10 million cap number is $12.225 million. $10 million base salary. Nothing guaranteed. There is a 2026 year which automatically voids on the last day of the 2025 league year with a $10 million base salary. Now, because they put that year in, and Saints typically have to do a lot of salary cap gymnastics at the beginning of the year, during the early part of the offseason before the league year starts, to be cap compliant, I am anticipating that this $9 million roster bonus on the fifth day of the league year gets converted into signing bonus. So most likely they're going to lower Hill's cap number to $5.125 million and create $72 million of cap space by doing that, and in turn raises 23 through 25 cap numbers by $1.8 million and also have $1.8 million of bonus proration in 2026. That's what I'm anticipating that they're going to do. In this deal, Hill is pretty much assured of making $21.5 million. He's going to play. He's not going to get cut before 2024 at the earliest. Maybe the first time you cut him is in 2025. Because once you convert the $9 million, which I'm anticipating they're going to do, then if you did a conventional cut in 2024, and I'm factoring in the $1.5 million salary guarantee, which has an offset, so they would eventually get a cap credit. Should they cut him and he signed elsewhere, they could get the whole 1.5 back, assuming he signs for contract at least that much. That you'd have $11.35 million of dead money. You'd only save $2.675 million by releasing him then. Now, if you did a post U1 designation before the third day of the league year to release him, you'd have to carry him on the cap, his full cap number, until June 2nd, but you'd save $8.5 million of cap space in 2024, have a $5.525 million cap charge, and then $5.825 million in 2025. So if you got rid of him in 2025 when he's made $30 million in new money off this deal, then you'd save $8.1 million on the cap, assuming you don't do any other restructures. You'd have $5.825 million in dead money. Now, in this deal, the prior deal that the contract that Taysom Hill was operating under, he had incentives which carried over. He's not going to earn any of these incentives and they become the foundation of the incentives in the new contract. The 2021 incentives are based on him participating in 70% of the offensive plays and the team having 11 wins. Then he gets $150,000 if the club earns a bye for the wild card round. Then he'll earn He'll earn an additional $150,000. He can max out at $1 million on the incentives. It's for 3,250 passing yards or more, $150,000. 90 or more passer rating, minimum 224 attempts, then $150,000. 25 or more passing touchdowns, $150,000. 65% or better completion percentage, $150,000. 600 or more rushing yards, $150,000. And then there's up to $450,000 based on how far the team advances in the playoffs, where he plays 50% of the plays in a playoff win. And if he's Offensive Player of the Year, $250,000. He's not going to earn any of this stuff this year. But the way the incentives work and the escalators work each year, that's the foundation of his bonus money, his performance bonuses. That for 23 through 2025, you've got $500,000. Amounts go way up for 3,250 passing yards. There's a minimum of 224 passing attempts. And where does this 224 passing attempt number come from? To qualify for passer rating, completion percentage, you have to pass for 224, have to have 224 pass attempts or more. That had worked out to 14 per game in a 16-game season. They really should raise that from 224 to 238 since we have a 17th game. And also it's listed in the CBA for what you need to have an incentive hit the likely, not likely to be earned standard. Anything you didn't do the year before is considered not likely. So all these will be not likely to be earned because Hill hasn't come close to anything like this. So for the passing yards, it's 500,000 for 3,250 or more, then another 500,000 for 4,000 or more passing yards. 90 more passer rating, $500,000. Passing touchdowns, 25 or more, 750,000. And then an additional 1.25 million for 30 passing touchdowns. Completion percentage, 65% or more, $1 million. And you've got to have the 224 passing attempts to qualify for any of these. So this means that he's got to be the starting quarterback for the incentives. Now for the escalators, you've got escalators for the 23 through 25. Paragraph 5 or base salaries will increase based on what he did in the immediate prior season. And for regular season wins, it can be up to 3.5 million based on 70% play time and then winning either 11 games, 12 games, 13 games or more. And it starts at 750, then it's an additional million for 12 wins. Then it's an additional 1.25 million for 13 wins, and if the club earns a bye in the wild card round, it increases for another 500,000. So that's 3.5 right there. And need a minimum of 224 passing attempts for this as well. Individual rushing yards, 600 or more, $500,000 paragraph 5 salary increase, base salary increase. Then you've got something for playtime and postseason wins. It's $125,000 for each playoff win. He participates in 50% of the offensive plays for each round of the playoffs. Maximum of $500,000 for this part of it. Then, if in the immediate previous season they're ranked in the top 10 or better in points scored, that's $1 million. If they rank in the top 10 in total offense in the prior season, that's another $1 million. If he has 6 or more rushing touchdowns, that's $250. Another $250 for 8 or more. Then another $500 for 10 or more. So that can be $1 million based on rushing touchdowns. And again, has to throw 224 pass attempts in the year in order for any of these to kick in. There's $500,000 for the Pro Bowl, and then there's up to $4 million based on him having 50% play time in a playoff game, passing for 10 yards, minimum 10 pass attempts. I should say in the conference championship game. Then it's $750,000, $1 million. Same other requirements in the Super Bowl. Then 1.5 if they win the Super Bowl. So that's $4 million for that. So 16 million, should say 18 million in incentives, 36 million in salary escalators. That's how we get to the 94 million. So this is only a contract which is more than the base value of 40 million over the 4 years if he is a starting quarterback, becomes the starting quarterback, and remains the starting quarterback.
This episode is brought to you by Timberland. The Timberland boot was built to keep you warm, keep you dry. Then they passed it on for you to build something. You took it from Buffalo and Philly to Chi-Town and New York, from London to Paris, all the way to Shanghai, around the block and around the world. They built a boot. You made it an icon. Timberland. Build forward. Share your Timberland story and tag them at Timberland.
Okay, now that we've broken down the contract, how much of the performance bonuses, incentives, and salary escalators are realistically achievable? Well, we don't have much of a track record to go on of Taysom Hill. The best thing we can do is extrapolate a full season from the 4 games he started last year when Drew Brees was out because of broken ribs. Now, Saints won 3 out of those 4 games. He completed 71.9% of his passes, 82 of 114 attempts for 834 yards, threw 4 touchdowns, passes, had 2 interceptions, had a 96.89 passer rating, 39 rushing attempts, 209 yards he picked up, and had 4 rushing touchdowns. So, if you wanted to extrapolate that out over 17-game season as a starting quarterback, then he's going to basically complete 349 out of 435 passes for the 71.9% completion percentage, throw for 3,545 yards, 17 touchdown passes, 9 interceptions, passer rating would be 96.89, would run the ball 166 times, for 888 yards and 17 rushing touchdowns. So we'll use that as a baseline. With the incentives, he picked up 500 in the passing yards for going over 3,250. Passer rating over 90. That's 500,000. Doesn't get 25 TD passes, 0. Completion percentage would get the million. It's over 65. So that's $2 million right there. So let's say he makes $8 million total. They're 3-1, so we'll say that's constant. That's 12 wins, and I may be a little generous there. So that would be, obviously he's going to play over 70% in those games that he started. He was 100% for 3 of them, 95% for another. So he's over 70% play time. That's $1.75 million for the playtime and regular season wins. Rushing yards easily gets that. That's 500,000. Okay, playtime postseason wins. If they're 12 wins, based on their playoff history, past few years, we'll say they win a wild card game each year. That's 125,000. Points scored in those 4 games. Team averaged 24.25 points per game. That's not going to get you in the top 10. Total offense isn't going to get you in the top 10. If that's how many passing yards, that's going to be low. Rushing touchdowns, he's going to max that out. He's going to get more than 10. That's $1 million. He ain't going to the Pro Bowl. And he's not going to get the other incentive for the postseason wins and playtime. So, that's going to be $3.375 million that the salary is going to escalate if he remains constant, base salary. So he'd earn $8 million in the incentives and $10.125 million in salary escalators if he played out the entire contract. So that'd be another $18.125 million to bring the total to $58.125 million. So that'd make the average $14,531,125, which would be a steal for a starting quarterback. Now, let's say he can't be the starting quarterback, and what's a little concerning to me is what the Saints have done since Jameis got hurt. I know Taysom Hill wasn't healthy to begin with, but Trevor Siemian's been the guy, and they've left him in this jack of all trades type role that he's had in the past. And Trevor Siemian has not been great. The best he's played was in relief of Jameis when they beat the Buccaneers. But this is a guy that got released the roster cut downs and then re-signed, and he's making $990,000 this year, league minimum on a contract. So, and this is the guy you can't beat out, I guess, after the Thanksgiving game against the Bills. Once Taysom Hill's healthy enough to play from the foot, which kept him out on Thanksgiving Day, maybe he should get a shot at quarterback so you can see if he actually is the guy. But let's say he's not the starting quarterback, then what is he? I know you could say offensive weapon, but is that running back, receiver, tight end? So thanks to Pro Football Focus, they do positional breakdowns of where someone takes snaps. And if you look at it from 2018 forward, when he started getting this role, let's look at this year in particular. He's played 147 plays on offense, 30 at quarterback, 13 he's lined up at running back, 33 at tight end, 38 in the slot, and 33 out wide as a wide receiver. Now, these slot snaps, I don't know whether to assign them solely to receiver or tight end. The reason I say that is if you took this breakdown and applied it to Jimmy Graham when he filed a grievance years ago to be classified as a wide receiver versus a tight end, it was 2/3 of his snaps were in the slot or out wide, and only 33% were in line as a tight end. Now, what the arbitrator ruled to make him a tight end was anytime you were within 4 yards of a tackle, then you're a tight end. So I don't know exactly where Taysom Hill lines up from looking at these breakdowns, but there's a more detailed breakdown that Pro Football Focus does where they have the slot where they designate it inside or outside. So if you take like the inside slot ones and assign those to tight end, then this year it's 50 tight end snaps, 54 wide receiver. In 2020, the breakdown was skewed more towards quarterback because he started the 4 games, but the other plays where he lined up, running back 26, and if you apply all the inside slot snaps to tight end, 66 tight end, 56 receiver. 2019, 36 times out of the 241 plays, he was a quarterback, 20 lined up as a running back. You take the 21 inside slot receiver or slot snaps and apply them to tight end. That's 96 tight end snaps, 89 running back snaps. Now, 2018, 181 plays, quarterback 58, running back 11. You apply the 4 inside slot ones to tight end, 62, tight end, 50 wide receiver. So if you look at the overall breakdown, since 2018, he's been on offense 1,041 plays, 448 have been at quarterback, 78 at running back. You take all 63 inside slot ones and put them at tight end, then it's 274 there and 249 at wide receiver. So he's either a slot receiver or he's a tight end. Now, if he's a tight end at $10 million per year, he's the 8th highest paid tight end in the league. And this is a guy who doesn't catch enough passes right now to justify such salary. Now, they did have a tight end that is now in San Diego last year, and that's Jared Cook. And I know Adam Troutman's the tight end now, but we're talking about a guy who in his career has caught 34 passes for 388 yards. If you caught 34 passes for 388 yards in a season, you're not getting $10 million per year. I can't say that. I should say you shouldn't get $10 million per year. But Jonnu Smith was like 41 for like 448 last year, and he's at $12.5 million per year. But you shouldn't sniff that, is what I'm saying. To be the 8th highest paid tight end, and those are your career stats. This year you've caught 4 passes, and if you're not going to be the quarterback, then in order to justify your contract, you're essentially going to have to do what Jared Cook did in 2 years he was there. On average, Jared Cook caught 40 passes for 600 yards and had 8 touchdowns. Or if you're a receiver, they haven't really replaced Emmanuel Sanders. Last year he had 61 catches, 726 yards, 5 touchdowns. You have to put up pretty decent, put up like 50 catch 50 passes a year, 600 yards, have some 5, 6, 7 touchdown receptions. If you were going to justify that contract, if you were not starting quarterback, I think they're grossly overpaying Taysom Hill. Seems like he's got a guardian angel in Sean Payton, whose affinity for the player may be clouding the financial judgment. There's also a guy that said that previously he could be a Steve Young type, and if available, all 31 teams would trade for him. Yeah, in a vacuum without knowing the compensation the Saints would want, but if the Saints were going to overvalue him, kind of like they did when they put the first-round tender on him in 2020 as a restricted free agent when he had 13 pass attempts, even though he was undrafted, a second-round tender would have sufficed. You never have anyone who's going to trade for him. But that's going to wrap up this week's Inside the Cap as we've looked at Taysom Hill's contract and tried to put it in a little bit of context. Hopefully he gets a chance to play quarterback on go-forward basis this year, so we'll get a better idea to see if he could be the quarterback of the future. If he's not going to be a quarterback, he's going to have a hard time living up to this contract. Okay. Thanks for listening this week. Don't forget you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That's CORRYJOEL. And also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agents Take on Salary Cap and Contract Matters. And we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.